I am very happy to testify before any congressional oversight committee. I have nothing to hide. I can explain and validate everything that I've done.
A few moments later.
What day of the week is it today?
I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment.
That was the infamous Mr. Foulchee on Capitol Hill yesterday after getting a subpoena to testify about his numerous lies about the pandemic, mask mandates, lockdowns, the origin of the virus, the safety of the vaccine, the whole thing. And he evoked his Fifth Amendment right over 100 times. As you could see, literally refusing even to answer what day of the week it was. Of course, the liberal media is framing this as if the Republicans were bullying this poor old man, but what they don't want people to know is he actually waived his Fifth Amendment right when he received his pardon from President Biden. His pardon from President Biden's staff, who signed it with the auto pen and then later told old Joe that they gave Dr. Fauci a pardon for any and all crimes that he had committed over a 10-year period. And when you receive a pardon like that, then you can't evoke your Fifth Amendment privilege. You're in contempt of court because you can speak freely now because you cannot and will not be charged for any of those crimes that you committed. So in this unique case, he actually committed a crime, sitting there refusing to answer the questions. CNN reported that the hearing was nothing more than an assault on science.
Public service and public servants should be respected. Everyone who was in that hearing and meeting room. But what's happened is this is an assault on science and scientists. And unfortunately, Dr. Fauci is in that seat. 38 years of service to the country, one of the best known scientists for infectious disease, unfortunately has taken a lot of heat for probably a lot of shall we say, issues that were not fully his. He didn't make all the decisions that drove the COVID pandemic, but you are right that he is one of the most respected scientists and should be respected in that same sort of way. Today, we certainly didn't learn anything from the way the hearing was held.
So we're supposed to respect him. Still.
First of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down. And the record will show, Neil, that we didn't recommend shutting everything down. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And that was a very difficult decision because I knew it would have serious economic consequences, which it did.
Actually, sir, the American people wanted answers to your lies like this.
Let's start at the beginning. On March 8th, 2020, you appeared on 60 Minutes to discuss the spread of COVID-19. You were specifically asked to clear up the confusion and misinformation surrounding masks. You told the American people, right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with a mask. The interviewer immediately stopped you and said, "Are you sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this." And instead of walking back or qualifying your statement in any way, you doubled down. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little better. It might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with their masks. They keep touching their face. Just a few weeks later, the CDC released its guidance recommending that Americans wear masks in public. You were asked to explain your original recommendation. You emphasized a very different consideration. You said, well, back then, the critical issue was to save the masks for the people who really needed them because it was felt there was a shortage of masks. So I want everybody to sit with that. The critical issue driving your initial recommendation to the American public was scarcity, logistics, not medical evidence. So when you told the American people there was no reason to wear a mask, what was your principal objective? Giving them an honest assessment of the medical evidence or discouraging them from consuming a scarce supply of masks?
A very good question. Of course, we know his answer.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
This is the interview that she's talking about. If you were subscribed to my YouTube channel back then you've seen it a dozen times throughout the pandemic. But since we're going down the COVID memory lane, here it is again.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet.
If you're like coughing or sneezing on someone, yeah.
But it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
And then remember his brilliant solution once Joe Biden became the president in early 2021 when he was going to fix the entire mess that they blamed on President Trump for the lockdowns, the economy, and the pandemic itself, was the brilliant idea of wearing not one mask now, but two.
It's time to double up and wear two. This morning, Dr. Fauci endorsed the idea on the Today Show.
If you have a physical covering with one layer, you put another layer on, it just makes common sense that it likely would be more effective.
More effective, especially with one new variant spreading much more easily. CBC's Contessa Brewer with us now to break down the science behind double masking and what we're all supposed to do.
The brilliant innovation of double masking, which took them almost a year to discover. Thank God they shut down those skate parks at the beach, because who knows how much longer the pandemic would have gone on if the kids were allowed to play outside. Remember this? But hey, at least those who lined up for the vaccine got some free French fries.
Free fries when you get vaccinated? I got vaccinated. You're saying I could get this? These delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this?
We're going to have to tell the future generations that this is not a deep fake, that this is not some kind of a parody created by AI, that this is a real video of the mayor of New York City promoting the vaccine.
Trump said he was going to fire Dr. Fauci. Isn't that wonderful? I got a better idea. Elect me and I'm going to hire Dr. Fauci.
By now, Dr. Fauci needs no introduction. Dr. Fauci is trusted, a truth teller, a patriot. So my message to you is this. Listen to Dr. Fauci, one of the most distinguished and trusted voices in the world.
Yes, and you should also trust the mainstream media, who called it a baseless conspiracy theory that the coronavirus leaked from the lab in China, even though, oh, by the way, that was one of the entries in Dr. Fauci's private journal, in his diary. And then he went on air the very next day and told the general public this.
We don't know exactly what that animal was, but some animal, probably in a wet market, where they bring in a variety of different types of wild game, and people sacrifice them, particularly around holidays, like the Lunar New Year. It is totally not surprising that you're seeing the facilitation of this jump from the animal species to the human.
Of course, today it's common sense that the virus, which was being manipulated in the Wuhan lab, leaked out. Now they say supposedly it was a big accident, of course. But you couldn't even ask questions about that. Remember, on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube, they would literally take those posts and those videos down until the summer of 2021, when everybody realized the obvious. And really, thanks to Jon Stewart, who made that point on the Stephen Colbert Show. Shocking Stephen Colbert, just putting two and two together. And that then made it safe, you may recall, to finally talk about it on social media.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean like there's a chance that this was created in a lab, there's an investigation?
A chance?
Well,
oh my
if there was evidence, I'd love to hear it.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do we do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan Novel Respiratory Coronavirus Lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. That's just a little too weird, don't you think? And then they ask those scientists, they're like, how did this... So wait a minute, you work at the Wuhan Respiratory Coronavirus Lab. how did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle. And you're like, no, the name of your lab. If you look at the name.
But one that it's not about much more your regrets, but I have one. And that is early on that there was the theory that the virus could have emerged from the lab. And early on that became like a right-wing kinds of theory. And I thought it seemed to make sense. Now, there was a really advanced lab that was close by, and then you have this unknown virus out. So, but that became a very partisan thing. And now it seems now it's more and more emerging theory that would have come from the lab. Now, I think that the next time our nation's facing something like this, we are not become, as I might have been, blinded by the partisan idea that maybe the truth might come from a side that's different than you are. But I think we should really be willing to pursue truth, no matter where that may have emerged, for all of that. So, and I now cede the remain back to the chair. Thank you.
There was a mom in Ohio during the depth of the coronavirus pandemic, decided to go to her high school football game for her son. They sat alone, far from everybody else, just a mom, a dad, a few kids. They didn't feel they needed to wear masks because it was stupid, because they were outside. They all live together. They're not near anybody. Those policies were put in place because you had moronic politicians that listened to the words of a megalomaniac who was more interested in having met a Kardashian than the suffering of the American people. And that is you. Your advice to communities like that, to idiotic politicians who enforce those rules, arrested that mom for watching a football game with her own family outside. When that story broke, I said to myself, I cannot stand idly on the side and watch this happen. It was about 6 years ago today that I decided I'm going to give up my businesses, sell them all, run for office, run for the United States Senate. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the do you think you were for doing that? It is a total disgrace what you did to this country. And if my Democrat colleagues are standing there defending you, I hope the voters of the United States of America watch the clips of every one of you doting on a guy who was more interested in being a celebrity than saving American people.
This hearing is bringing back a lot of memories that I'm sure we're all having that are indistinguishable from nightmares.
Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines. Help all the people who have been quarantined. We'll wear our masks and we'll have to stay distant. We'll wash our hands and we'll be more resistant.
No lockdowns anymore. We can finally walk out the door. The sunlight is a fantasy. It still doesn't feel real to me. Vaccine.
Looking back, that was a really tough and messed up time. I'm surprised that we actually survived as a society, as a country, as a species. But thankfully, the celebrities were there to help the mentally enslaved masses make it through.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
No hell below us.
Above us only sky.
Imagine all these celebtards hopping on a group chat or on a Zoom call and saying that they've come up with a great idea to help cheer up the American people by putting together whatever the hell you would call this. Real men own up to their mistakes, and of course nobody's perfect, and in the world of medicine, it's a very complicated field filled with unknowns. And if Dr. Fauci was a real man of integrity, as the usual suspects built him up to be, or to try to portray him as, then he actually would have sat down and testified even without a pardon in order to try to help to correct and prevent some of the mistakes that were made so that if we have a terrible pandemic again, we don't have the same problems, the same kinds of disasters, the same kinds of absolute stupidity that actually made things worse. But we're living in a world where liberals not only lie systemically, but censor those who tell the truth. Like my last book, The War on Conservatives, which came out back in 2023, and in case you didn't hear, Amazon banned it last month, and luckily they did restore it. They rejected 2 appeals, an initial appeal, an appeal that I made directly to the CEO of Amazon, and it was only after a media inquiry and it started making headlines did they restore it and then say it was just a mistake. It's always just a mistake. So order it while you can by clicking the link in the description below. It is available in a hardcover now as well, and paperback, and from the ebook stores. And I have a new book coming out, which remains under wraps, in probably November. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, click the link in the description below, head on over to Amazon.com, and check it out.